Once in the forest you'll find a fabulous banquet, a fairy ball. If you close your eyes and you open your mind, the veil disappears and you'll see it all.
Hi my angels, it's Haley Reese, and for today's video I am super excited because you and I are going to be diving into the world of The Conjuring and the true story that lies behind it. Now, I love the Conjuring series, and I love anything to do with the experiences of Ed and Lorraine Warren and what they've endured. I think that it's really interesting when they can take a motion picture and properly display something that somebody experienced spiritually. The Conjuring is based on the Perron family who suffered for a decade with the ghosts, and the malicious ghost in particular, that occupied the home that they moved into. And so for today's video, you and I are going to explore what was the truth behind the Conjuring movie, what really happened, and take a dive into the terrors that was something that somebody really and truly experienced. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please make sure to let me know in the comments below, because I'm really strongly considering doing this exact video but exploring The Conjuring 2 and also exploring some different motion pictures that have true stories behind them and shedding light on what actually took place. One thing that I very quickly want to say before getting into today's video is that you guys have been asking for an email to email me all of your experiences, your stories, and what you're going through, and I have finally created it. The email is questions@haleyreese.com. It will be in the description box, so definitely do not hesitate to send me any questions, any stories, or just anything and everything to that email. But without further ado, let's get into this, because believe me you guys, this is one spooky story. And it's even spookier because it's true. So the original Conjuring movie was actually based on the Perron family, and it's based on what they endured in the decade that they lived within this home. Actually, more particularly what they endured within the first 3 years of living in this home, but this nightmare never ended for them. It never really does, but we will definitely get into that later. So in 1970, Roger and Carolyn Perron moved to a farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island with their 5 daughters. The farmhouse was actually built in 1736 and was better known as the Old Arnold Estate. They had 200 acres of property, so they figured it would be the perfect place to raise their 5 daughters. You know, 5 kids is a lot of kids, and so having a lot of land, less fighting between the kids, and more for them to do. However, although the Perron family would reside in this home for a decade, they would never, ever be alone. It wasn't long after moving in that they realized that the house was extremely occupied, but for a short span in the beginning, it seemed like they were harmless, they were friendly, and that there was really nothing to worry about. The kids would report that spirits were watching them play. They would have interactions with a lot of the kids, the spirits and the kids, and it seemed to be extremely harmless. It seemed like, you know, the average paranormal experience, where it's still a phenomenon, but at the end of the day, they didn't feel threatened or afraid. However, that changed very, very quickly. Soon things got scarier. Pictures were flying off the walls, things were levitating. Their beds that they were sleeping in were levitating off of the floor while they were in them. Things that were just unexplainable were happening. Things were shattering, things were moving. It seemed to be escalating very, very quickly, and what they once thought was harmless paranormal activity began to become more dangerous. Now, eventually, a malicious spirit by the name of Bathsheba targeted Carolyn, the mother. What was said to have been from jealousy, but regardless, she formed a very strong attachment to her, and the attachment got physical. She would violently attack Carolyn, torment Carolyn, and eventually possess her, but we'll get there in a moment. Now, I'm going to get more into the story of Bathsheba in a moment, but she was said to have lived and resided on the Old Arnold Estate prior to them living there. And there are lots of reasons that people believe that she formed this negative jealousy-driven attachment to Carolyn. But regardless, what Carolyn would endure would be years and years of torment. Carolyn claims that one night she woke up, Bathsheba was on top of her, basically choking her, saying, "Get out, get out, get out. I'll drive you out with death and gloom." And that is the exact quote that she was said to have said. Carolyn and the family described Bathsheba as a terrifying looking woman with her neck to one side as if it had been broken. Now, right before she actually possessed Carolyn said that Bathsheba stabbed her with a sewing needle, which later tied into the story of this really being Bathsheba making a ton of sense. So let's get into who exactly Bathsheba was and what her history is. So Bathsheba Sherman was born in 1812 in Rhode Island. On March the 10th in 1844, Bathsheba married a man and moved to the Arnold estate with him. That's exactly where Carolyn and the Perron family all resided during this time of this haunting. Now, she gave birth to a son by the name of Herman L. Sherman, but people really believe Herman Sherman. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Herman L. Sherman, but people actually believe that she may have had 3 other children that died during childhood. And this was the beginning of the claims of Bathsheba being a witch. Now, when the claims really escalated was when an infant died in the care of Bathsheba. And when they ran the autopsy, it was proven that she had died by a sewing needle through the back of her skull. Now, people believe that she had sacrificed the child to Satan himself, and that she had done sacrifices over her own children, the 3 children that have not been documented, by the way, over the years. Now, she was investigated for the murder of this small infant. However, all charges were dropped and she was never charged with the murder itself. However, when Carolyn would later say that it was Bathsheba haunting her and that she was stabbed with a sewing needle, the correlation just seemed a little bit too frightening to be coincidental. Now, Bathsheba died in 1885, and it is said that she had hung herself. And that's where the whole hanging woman in the Conjuring kind of comes into play. So Bathsheba's initial tactics with Carolyn were to harm her physically by bruising her, biting her, stabbing her with sewing needles, things like that, and to kind of torment her day to day by her presence and instilling fear into her. But eventually the jealousy took over Bathsheba and it became a possession thing, and she would eventually possess Carolyn. Now, it is at this point that the family decided to call Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now, the minute that Ed and Lorraine Warren actually entered the Arnold estate, Lorraine right away sensed the negative, malicious spirit attached to Carolyn. And she was the one who told her that this spirit had a jealousy factor around her and that she was not going to let go. So Ed and Lorraine Warren performed a ton of cleansings of the property, which only in turn aggravated the spirits even more. Now, I believe in saging. I do believe in things like that, the power of the light and casting things out. But when it gets to the point of pure evil, sometimes it is way past the point of saging or protecting with the white light or even just praying. So a lot of times that will actually aggravate the spirits. And in this particular situation, that's exactly what it did. It did not cast them away. It brought them back stronger than ever, more violent, more angry, more malicious. And they realized that things were going to have to be dealt with a lot differently. Now, in the movie, they perform an exorcism on Carolyn's character. However, in real life, Ed and Lorraine Warren actually performed a seance. Now, this seance supposedly went horribly wrong, and in turn Roger Perron actually kicked Ed and Lorraine Warren off of the property. One of the younger daughters was actually quoted saying that they had opened up something that was out of their control and they were unable to close it, and that things just got horribly worse after this. Now, due to being financially stuck, the family had to live in this home for an additional 7 years after Ed and Lorraine Warren left. 7 years after Ed and Lorraine Warren had left, and that was all said and done, the family moved to Georgia. But it is said that the paranormal never unlatched themselves from them, that they actually stuck with them, and upon moving to Georgia, a lot of the negative spirits continued to follow them from the Arnold estate all the way to Georgia. So in 2013, the motion picture The Conjuring came to life. Now, the interesting thing is that Lorraine Warren was actually on the set of The Conjuring movie in order to give them direction on how to make it best represent what actually happened. I found that to be an interesting fact because a lot of times some motion pictures will take a true story and dramatize it to the max, which I'm sure there was dramatization within this, but I mean, listening to what the parents endured, it doesn't sound like it was all smoke and mirrors for the movie. It sounds like it was a really great representation of it. And the most interesting part about that is that the Perron family approves of the movie. They said it is a 100% accurate representation of what they endured, and they give it a thumbs up on the accuracy, which to me makes it all the more terrifying, because The Conjuring was a terrifying movie, and sadly enough, it was actually somebody's reality. One of the Perron daughters has actually came out with a book, so you guys can look into that as well. And there are many interviews of them kind of giving their insight as to what they endured. But at the end of the day, they have said that it was a great representation of what happened to them, that what happened while living on the Arnold estate was absolutely traumatizing, and that upon moving to Georgia, the spirits never actually left them alone. As far as Bathsheba, I tried to search for a picture of her. There's only one known picture on the internet that could be Bathsheba, but people don't really know. However, the Perron family is positive that it was Bathsheba Sherman who haunted and possessed their mother. I mean, it would make sense that they see her with the stabbed neck and Bathsheba Sherman died by hanging herself. There are just too many correlations between the life of Bathsheba Sherman and what happened to Carolyn Perron while living in the home. Well, you guys, that is the true story behind The Conjuring #1. If you guys want me to cover The Conjuring 2 or other paranormal movies with true stories, make sure to leave a comment down below letting me know that you guys enjoyed it. I really enjoy looking into what's fact and what's fiction when it comes to paranormal movies, and so I definitely would enjoy creating these videos for you guys, but it's completely up to you whether or not you guys enjoyed it. On that note though, if you guys did enjoy today's video but you are not yet subscribed, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. I post a ton of videos. I don't want you to miss when I upload. And please give this video a big thumbs up. It makes my heart super happy when you guys do that, so please do that. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until next time, I love you.